Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brady Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brady, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Bethany Rutledge, author of Courage to Try. Bethany, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
You know, the piece of advice that I would give is something that I really did wrong, and that is to find writing community. I really didn't know anyone writing books when I was writing my first book, and because of that, I felt like an island. And since writing my first book, as I continue to become involved in the writing community, I found that there are thousands of others right there in all stages, from the pre-published stage to really seasoned authors who are all willing to give advice and at least provide some commiseration along the way. So I would say get plugged into your writing community, whether that's an online community, in person, or a mix of the two.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
You know, I think that the hardest part is that getting published is really a numbers game. When I first graduated to college, I was actually a journalism major, and I thought, great, hey, I kind of know how to write. I could probably get published. Maybe I'll write for magazines. And so I think I sent out a couple of queries, and got a couple of rejections, and I had no idea that that's all part of cutting your teeth, and that even the most famous and professional authors will continue to get rejections by the dozens throughout their career in one way or another. So I would say I just gave up too easily. And so other writers who are working on getting published really just need to remember that it's a numbers game. You'll end up sending out dozens of queries likely, and for some authors it's a multi-year process to getting their first book published. So don't get discouraged and just keep on trying.
Well, and with you actually did find a publisher, if I remember.
I did, yeah. So I actually, as far as my publishing journey, it was a little bit short for my nonfiction book, and so it actually didn't take that long. It took 3 months, but it was kind of a fluke situation where I had sent it out to a bunch of agents, and an agent had forwarded my proposal to this publisher, and so I was able to link up that way. But the more I talked to other authors, the more I realized that it's a lot of that, if you're just doing your research and you're just trying, that something will work, but it often happens in kind of a quirky way other than you'd expect.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
So I had initially kind of a worst nightmare book launch. What happened to me was, first of all, there was kind of a mix-up about when the launch was going to be, and then the stores didn't receive the books when they were supposed to. They got lost in transit because my publisher was overseas. And at the same time, I ended up on bed rest in the hospital, pregnant with twins. And I actually missed my book launch party because I was giving birth to twins in the hospital. So what I learned from that experience is, it's not just, the launch isn't just the moment of launch. Of course, at the time, I was incredibly disappointed, and I thought, man, I blew it. This launch is going to be lame. But what happened is afterwards, I was able to really look at some post-launch strategies that have helped me continue to sell copies of my book past the day that I didn't show up to my launch party. So for me, that's included writing a lot of content, becoming active on social media, especially Pinterest. So I drive people to lots of lead magnets and training plans and things like that organically. And then those people come into my email marketing system, and I'm able to communicate with them regularly. And then eventually many of them become people who would benefit from my book.
So is Pinterest your primary way to promote your book?
I would say, I don't know if I would say Pinterest is a primary way, but I would definitely say social media is the primary way. As far as breaking out of my circle, I'm actually the owner of a couple of triathlon-related businesses, and I've been a coach for a long time. So I just figured in the beginning, everyone who sort of knows me, maybe they'll pick up a copy, but how do I sort of break through that circle? And so that social media traffic, including Pinterest, has been a way to sort of break out of my circle and reach readers beyond the people that know me.
So Pinterest in particular, that's always kind of been a sticky wicket when we've had guests on the show. We've had a couple of people talk highly about it. We've had a couple of people that had some challenges. What are some pieces of advice that you would give to our audience for utilizing Pinterest correctly?
Yes, definitely. Actually, it's funny that you asked that, because since this whole thing happened to me, I've become a lot more interested in helping writers get exposure and, reach readers with their book. And so I've done a lot of content creation around that. And one thing that I see writers doing a lot that doesn't work is they think that the point of social media is buy my book, buy my book. So, you see them out there on Twitter saying, buy my book, and, just tweeting links and stuff like that all the time. Whereas the primary goal of social media use for authors should really just be to make that initial connection with readers, to kind of just get you on their radar. And then after you're able to communicate with them a number of times and provide value, then they'll be interested in the other products and services that you have to offer. So for Pinterest, for me, it's not really about saying, hey, here's all this, you should check it out. In fact, I rarely do that, and I feel uncomfortable doing that. But I just point people to something that can help them by answering the questions for their specific problem. So for me, for a triathlon book, their specific question would be, am I too old to do a 5K? Can someone who's overweight do a triathlon? What is the gear that I need for a triathlon? So I really focus my Pinterest and content creation efforts on answering those specific questions that will help that reader. And that allows them to kind of come into my sphere, and then we can continue to connect, and I can provide value after that. That will eventually, hopefully, lead to them also grabbing a copy of my book.
And then with the stuff on Pinterest with the posts, you're able to put your link in there for the book or a link for a lead magnet. How does that work?
Yeah, so basically what I do is I write long-form articles, and that way I can also get organic traffic from Google. So that's something I've really been focusing on. And so I usually don't direct them straight to buy the book, but I direct them to my blog. So then on the blog, I'm providing value, and usually I'll either do like a content upgrade or a lead magnet. So let's say the article was about how to run a fast 5K, which is a pretty common Pinterest search. So I'd have like a pretty graphic that I put up there, and it would link to a long-form article on my site about how to run a fast 5K. And then at the end of the article, I might create like an opt-in that said, hey, I want to send you my fast 5K plan. You can get faster in 8 weeks. So then they'd enter their email, and I would be able to send them that PDF, and then they'd be in my email system. I'd know that they were interested in running a fast 5K, and I'd be able to tailor our future interactions to that.
So with this method, how many people do you feel that you've added from Pinterest to your list?
Oh my goodness. It's hard to say, because my list is also a result of my triathlon related businesses, but I will say about a year ago, when I was basically doing no outreach, no marketing, my email list was a couple hundred, and now it's at about 1,500. So I think that's pretty good for kind of a solo one-man show, just kind of learning marketing as they go.
Well, yeah, especially, if you're able to drive that much traffic from Pinterest, that's just one great traffic source to focus on with that.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is, I guess it depends what you're interested in, but I find it very fun. And to me, it's a lot more fun to sort of find my ideal reader and help them specifically, rather than kind of do what I imagined marketing would be like, which is saying, buy my book, buy my book. Because I'm kind of an introvert. I don't like doing that. I'd rather just skip straight to answering their questions and helping them.
Well, let's talk about your favorite book. So what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Yeah, so a book that I really enjoyed recently, and this is a tough question, by the way, because I'm an avid reader, is Jeff Goins' Real Artists Don't Starve. And back when I was getting into this whole writing thing, I've been freelancing for years for a number of trade publications and things like that. But I always thought of writing as sort of an additive to your career, rather than the ability for writing to be your actual career. And that was what was so cool about his book. And even the title of it, Real Artists Don't Starve, artist sounds so, I'm not an artist. But really, the idea of the book is that you can actually try to make money from whatever you do that's creative. It's basically about how creatives can make their calling a career. So the message behind that book and the idea that it's okay to pursue making a living as part of your creative process is really valuable.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Okay, so this is my favorite quote. If you don't want your best work to die with you, you must train yourself to think and live differently than the ways we've been told artists behave. Don't starve for your art, help it thrive.
And why is that your favorite quote?
Yeah, so I was just kind of letting it sink in. Okay. So the reason I like it so much is that, I don't know, I think it just makes me think about, if you don't do this now, then when will you do it? I know when I was younger, I always said, I'd like to write a book someday. And I just figured that someday would come and I would do it and it would be great. But no one's ever going to sort of knock on your door and say, hey, you should really do this. No one's going to hand it to you. I think now more than ever before in publishing, we have so many tools at our disposal, and it's really up to us being, the authors, to make those chances happen for ourselves. And you can't just sit around waiting to be discovered.
Well, Bethany, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Yeah, I'd love to connect online. My handles are basically the same on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and Twitter. It's Bethany, BETHANY, Rutledge, RUTLEDG. And you can also find me at BethanyRutledge.com. I've got all types of training resources on there and resources for writers as well.
Well, Bethany, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.